Biden warns Putin US will react decisively and impose swift and severe costs if Russia invades Ukraine. President Joe Biden warned Russian President Vladimir Putin that the US and its allies will respond decisively and impose swift and severe consequences on Russia should Putin decide to invade Ukraine. In a roughly hour-long phone call, the White House said Biden made clear to Putin what he would be risking with an invasion. A senior administration official told reporters following the call that the discussions was substantive, but the US fears Russia may still launch a military attack anyway. President Biden was clear that if Russia undertakes a further invasion of Ukraine, the United States together with our allies and partners will respond decisively and impose swift and severe costs on Russia. President Biden reiterated that a further Russian invasion of Ukraine would produce widespread human suffering and diminish Russia's standing, the White House said in a statement, adding Biden was clear with President Putin that while the United States remains prepared to engage in diplomacy in full coordination with our allies and partners, we are equally prepared for other scenarios. The call between the two leaders comes hours after the US moved some of its forces out of Ukraine and ordered the evacuation of most of its embassy staff on Saturday as fears mount that a Russian invasion of the country could take place in the next few days. The moves were yet another sign that the US fears Putin could order an invasion at any time, just one day after Biden's national security advisor warned Americans in Ukraine to leave and that military action could begin with an aerial bombardment that could kill civilians. A senior administration official told reporters Saturday afternoon that the call between the two presidents was professional and substantive, but there was no fundamental change in the dynamic that has been unfolding now for several weeks. The two presidents agreed that our teams will stay engaged in the days ahead, the official told reporters after the call. Russia may decide to proceed with military action anyway. Indeed, that is a distinct possibility. The official said that Biden reiterated the US's ideas on how to enhance European security while also addressing some of Russia's security concerns, but noted that it remains unclear whether Russia is interested in pursuing its goals diplomatically. Asked whether Russia has made a decision to invade, the official said, "I think the honest answer to that question is we don't have full visibility into President Putin's decision-making. But we are not basing our assessment of this on what the Russians say publicly," the official continued. "We are basing his assessment on what we are seeing on the ground, which is a continued Russian buildup on the border with Ukraine and no meaningful evidence of de-escalation or really of any interest in de-escalation." The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs had on Friday accused Western countries and the press of spreading a large-scale disinformation campaign about an allegedly impending Russian invasion of Ukraine in order to divert attention from their own aggressive actions. At the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022, the global information space faced a media campaign unprecedented in its scale and sophistication, the purpose of which is to convince the world community that the Russian Federation is preparing an invasion of the territory of Ukraine, the ministry said in a statement published on its website. The US has estimated that Russia has more than 100,000 troops near the Ukraine border, with thousands added just this week, according to an administration official. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters on Friday that a Russian assault on Ukraine could begin soon, beginning with aerial bombings and missile attacks. He advised all Americans in Ukraine to depart the country for their own safety as quickly as possible. "We obviously cannot predict the future, we don't know exactly what is going to happen. But the risk is now high enough and the threat is now immediate enough that this is what prudence demands," he said. In Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, Mayor Vitaly Klitschko outlined preparations the city is taking to safeguard critical and social infrastructure facilities in the event of a possible emergency. In the statement issued on Telegram ahead of the weekend, Klitschko said, "Our efforts are aimed at preventing or overcoming both possible provocations and withstanding a military attack." The senior administration official on Saturday said that US will continue and even increase its support for Ukraine to help it defend. Official hopes Putin makes right choice on Ukraine, warns of body bags. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman said that if Russia invades Ukraine, it will not only face economic consequences, but that body bags will come back to Moscow as well. Sherman's comments on Thursday came as Western nations remained concerned about a potential Russian invasion. Russia has amassed more than 100,000 troops near Ukraine's border and recently began military drills with its ally Belarus. Sherman said that there will be dire consequences to the economy of Russia if Putin acts, noting in a Thursday MSNBC interview the extraordinary alliance that exists with all of Europe and the United States and countries around the world. Not only will that create consequences, but Russian President Vladimir Putin should understand that body bags will come back to Moscow as well. That the citizens of Russia will suffer because their economy will be completely devastated, Sherman stated. So this is a very stark choice for him, and in spite of all that is going on right now, we hope he makes the right choice, she added. Not only will that create consequences, but Russian President Vladimir Putin should understand that body bags will come back to Moscow as well. That the citizens of Russia will suffer because their economy will be completely devastated, Sherman stated. So this is a very stark choice for him, and in spite of all that is going on right now, we hope he makes the right choice, she added. Vladimir Putin has a very stark choice to make. He can bring about a further invasion of Ukraine, which will include enormous consequences against him, against his government, against Russia for taking such action, Sherman continued. Or he can choose diplomacy and dialogue and ensure not only the security of Europe, but his security as well since Russia is part of Europe, the Deputy Secretary of State added. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said he was disappointed following a meeting with British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, who warned of sanctions if Russia invaded Ukraine, according to a report by The Guardian. I'm honestly disappointed that our conversation turned out like the mute with the deaf. We appear to be listening, but we're not hearing anything. Our detailed explanations fell on unprepared ground, Lavrov said. Western leaders have repeated that sanctions will be employed if Russia invades Ukraine. In December, President Joe Biden said he told Putin that if he makes any more moves and goes into Ukraine, we will have severe sanctions. We will increase our presence in Europe with our NATO allies, and it will have to be a heavy price to pay for it, the president said. Lavrov has said that sanctions over a Russian invasion would be tantamount to breaking off relations with the West. How do Ukrainians in Russia feel about the crisis? Some say they are strongly on Moscow's side, but in the past, officials have cracked down on those who criticize Russia. St. Petersburg, Russia, despite fears that President Vladimir Putin may order his troops to roll into Ukraine, Ukrainians remain the largest diaspora in Russia. According to officials in Kyiv, there were approximately 3 million Ukrainian citizens living in Russia in 2018, including migrant workers sending remittances back home, and many are palpably pro-Russian. Among them are former residents of two Russia-backed separatist statelets in eastern Ukraine, the self-proclaimed republics Luhansk and Donetsk, who were handed passports by Moscow following the 2014 war. Ivan Alexeyevich, 67, from Luhansk, has been living in Kirov, some 800 kilometers, 500 miles, northeast of Moscow, for 4 years. Although I'm a Russian citizen now, I still consider Ukraine my homeland. I was born there, I went to school and received a good education, Ivan told Al Jazeera. We lived in Luhansk peacefully with our children, but in 2014, we came under mortar fire. I stepped out of my apartment building, and they flew right over my head. My wife and I hid in the basement. We were being shelled day and night. I was stationed in Angola in the 1970s as part of my military service while there was a war there. I never imagined it could happen here. Russian President Vladimir Putin has often expressed a view that Russians and Ukrainians, as well as Belarusians, are one people, a nation divided. Indeed, many famous Russians, such as MMA fighter Fyodor Emelianenko, are actually of Ukrainian origin. The author Nikolai Gogol had a Ukrainian background too. The languages, history, and culture of the neighbors, from their shared origins in the medieval Slavic kingdom of Kievan Russes, are close, although the idea that they are still one nation can be, and is, debated. In any case, under centuries of